offseason, man. I love the NFL offseason. It never fails. During the offseason, the most wild stuff, the most wild hot takes just drop out of the sky, out of nowhere, and it's routine every single year. Whether it's your favorite team that you follow and they didn't make the playoffs, hot takes just come out of nowhere. Or if you're just following the NFL as a general fan and the sport is out of commission for the next couple of months because the offseason just started, it never fails. The most wild stuff just comes out of nowhere. This is Realistic Randy of the Mediokr Best Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in on Score North YouTube network channel on Tuesdays. Thank you for tuning in. Truly appreciate it. But first, 3 topics revolved around the Minnesota Vikings for this week's podcast. And that's to start with this. I've seen this on Vikings Nation. I've seen it, I think, on Bleacher Report, certainly on Vikings Twitter. That's entertaining in itself. And especially Judd Zulgad, Phil Mackey, and Matthew Collar of our own Score North network, okay? You guys aren't immune to this either. I've got a bone to pick with y'all. What the hell is wrong with y'all? Entertaining the idea. Should the Vikings entertain the idea of drafting Kyler Murray, quarterback out of Oklahoma, who seemingly now just committed to the NFL for real this time? When going through that hubbub of, baseball or football, I guess he's going to go with baseball now. That's what we're going with right now? No, they should not entertain the idea of drafting Kyler Murray. No, they should not be, for a couple of reasons. Number one, you've invested 3 years, $84 million, basically a king's ransom of your draft capital on your quarterback. You need to invest your time, your energy, your resources into him. And by the way, this draft, 2 out of your first 3 picks need to be offensive linemen. That is the philosophy for this year's 2019 draft for the Minnesota Vikings, because you need to have an offensive line for Kirk Cousins. You bleeped the bed last year, Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer, by going after a defensive player and not addressing the offensive line as a whole. Will Hernandez could certainly help with the guard spots. By the way, we still need help at the guard spots, right? And the 2018 season went into the toilet. You didn't make the playoffs at all. And now you're going into 2019. If Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer weren't on the hot seat, then you could have the luxury to say, okay, maybe we could look into post-Kirk Cousins. What's life going to be like for the Vikings post-Kirk Cousins? We should draft Kyler Murray to sit behind Kirk Cousins. Then when Cousins is done, then we can bring on Kyler Murray. You don't have the luxury, if you're Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer, you don't have the luxury to look into the future for the Vikings. You don't, because you're on the hot seat. If you don't make the playoffs, man, bump that. If you don't make the playoffs and win a playoff game, they should be fired. They should absolutely be fired. You don't have the luxury to look in the future. You need to be thinking about right now. And Kirk Cousins, the perfectionist that he is, this guy that probably spends 5 or 6 hours rehearsing his lines before he gets up to that podium, all right? And then when he cracks under pressure, you see it just in his face where it's kind of like if you're in the WWE and people kind of just do something that you weren't expecting, you're like, oh, this wasn't in the script. I wasn't prepared for that. That's Kirk Cousins. When things blow up in his face, he's not ready for it, and he panics. That's just who he is. So then imagine putting a prodigy, a quarterback, all the rage in the world, we all love him, putting him behind Kirk Cousins. Man, one bad throw from Kirk Cousins to start week 1, and all of Vikings Nation will be going, we want Kyler. Can you imagine how much he'll just buckle under that pressure? You don't need to do that. You need to invest into 2019 for Kirk Cousins. Devote your resources to him. Get an offensive line. You'll be fine. Kyler Murray is listed at 5'11", according to Google. I looked up Kyler Murray height. He is listed at 5'11", which really means he's really 5'9", maybe 5'10" on a good day, because these pro athletes, they get up there. Drew Brees, he's listed at 6 feet tall. He's probably 5'10", probably more along the lines of 5'10", 5'10 and a half on a good day. Or Doug Flutie. And by the way, there's not too many. You don't come across very many Russell Wilsons, Drew Brees, or Doug Flutie's of the world. You don't really come across those types of quarterbacks as far as short quarterbacks, especially short quarterbacks that runs like Kyler Murray does without protecting himself. So you don't need to sabotage this draft for going for a Kyler Murray. You don't do that, okay? And guess what? If 2019 falls apart, then you can think about, okay, what are we going to do after Kirk Cousins? And you know what that is? We just think again. We go through this cycle as Vikings Nation where we go through the highs and lows. 98, I wasn't there for that as far as this is the peak. We're going to finally do it. And just everything falls apart. Or 2009, oh, we waited 11 years, but now we're relevant again. NFC Championship game, it's all going to work out, baby. Okay, just fall apart. Bountygate, you cheaters. All those late hits that the refs never called on Brett Favre. Get that crap out of my face. And then 2018 or 2017 season, 2018, an NFC Championship game. Oh my God, this team, they may be the first team to ever win a Super Bowl in front of their home crowd and just fall apart. And we just go through the immediate cycle of just sucking after that. Just sucking. So that's all that's going to happen. All that's going to happen is if everything falls apart in 2019, then you fire Rick Spielman, you fire Mike Zimmer, and we start over again like we always do. Just despair and depression, and the gray clouds just rise over Minneapolis and the whole state of Minnesota, and we just suffer for 1 year. Until the 2021 draft, when Roger Goodell gets up on that podium and says, with the first pick in the 2021 draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson. Oh my goodness. Andrew Wiggins face back. Oh, took an ill-advised long too. He shouldn't have done that. You go after Trevor Lawrence. I want Trevor Lawrence. If you're going to blow this thing up for some quarterback, I want Trevor Lawrence, damn it. Can you imagine? That dude was a beast in the national championship game. And by the way, talk about the marketing. Trevor Lawrence and Eric Kendricks, they can do like joint Head and Shoulders commercials together. Can you imagine that? That dude, I think that dude's going to be a star in the NFL. So anyway, we don't need Kyler Murray. We invested our time, our resources, our money, our draft into Kirk Cousins. You need to see it through. Moving forward from that, Stefon Diggs was making a case for the Vikings fan base to be patient with this Vikings offense. He said, quote, first year, new system, new quarterback, new receivers. Everybody's new. Still got to adjust, and you know there's a lot of room for improvement. We've had a lot of sparks. We've had some good games. Some things that you saw that we could be really special, and doing it on a consistent basis is something that's going to come with time. You can't look forward to time, or you can't look forward to time. It's not working against us. It's working with us. I respectfully disagree with Stefon Diggs. And when I say respectfully, I mean this. In terms of the frustration from myself and other people of Vikings Nation and the Vikings fan base, it's not towards Stefon Diggs or the receiving core at all. It's none to that. Not at all. Even the defense. In fact, if this frustration towards the defense is more for me anyway, towards Mike Zimmer not being able to adjust. But as far as the frustrations on offense, we're not frustrated with or impatient with Stefon Diggs. By the way, that NFC Championship game against the Eagles, Jerick McKinnon, Stefon Diggs, and Adam Thielen were playing their asses off. They were playing their asses off. I appreciate the effort that they showed. There was a couple of plays where Jerick McKinnon, I think he caught a few passes out the backfield, and you could see the frustration in his face after he caught the ball. He's like, man, let me try to make something happen for this team, because the rest of the team, they simply gave up. They simply quit, especially that coaching staff. So I appreciate the effort. Stefon Diggs, that applies to him too, and Adam Thielen. I appreciate those guys. And Jerick McKinnon, he's gone. He suffered a catastrophic injury last year. I wish him all the best in San Francisco, or really it's called Santa Clara. They're really in Santa Clara, which is like 40 minutes south of San Francisco. I wish him all the best. But in terms of this, Stefon Diggs, no one's frustrated towards them. I'm frustrated towards the leadership of this Minnesota Vikings team. The offensive line has been crappy for years. Why can't you just draft offensive linemen? And when I say draft offensive linemen or build up the offensive line, don't take tackles and make them guards, or take guards and make them tackles. Draft or sign a damn guard that can play guard. Stop taking Mike Remmers from tackle to guard. Stop entertaining the idea of Riley Reif to guard. Just make the offensive line good, damn it, and then we'll shut the hell up. And then whatever happens after that happens. But that's where the frustration lies. And then to the point of being impatient, you signed Kirk Cousins. You came from an NFC Championship game appearance in which you could have won the Super Bowl at your house, to saying, okay, Case Keenum, he's not going to repeat what he did, because who knows if he can be that lightning in a bottle again, and Pat Shurmur is gone. We need to go with a more guaranteed player, a bigger body of work, if you will. And that's Kirk Cousins. You invested $84 million in him. So immediately the expectations is, hey, playoffs, at least a playoff run, not 8-7-1. So no, I'm sorry, I can't get behind this idea of, practice patience. No, there is no time for patience. You are in a win now window, and you need to exercise that. So, but I do appreciate the effort that Stefon Diggs and Adam Thielen and Danielle Hunter. Remember in that Rams game where was it Todd Gurley? There was someone that broke off for like a 40-yard run, and Danielle Hunter chased him down, ran him down, and did a quick, grabbed him by, the shoulders or something, stumbled. I think it was Todd Gurley. Stumbled him, and then ultimately that led to the tackle. I forgot who ultimately tackled him. So I appreciate players like that with that sort of effort. But as far as everything else, nah, man, this is a win-now mode that you're in right now. You need to exercise that. Now, lastly, I saw this come up. I think this was by Terrell Davis, Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, talked about Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson needs to come home to Minnesota Vikings. And now we're talking about that again because he's a free agent. 2019, should the Minnesota Vikings bring him back? No, they shouldn't. They should re-sign Latavius Murray. They should bring him back because he's an all-around back. He's the perfect complement to Latavius Murray, whereas Adrian Peterson. Now, let me make sure I say this about Adrian Peterson real quick, okay? For full disclosure, Adrian Peterson, I was not happy with the way his last year or two ended with the Vikings, okay? Because that whole, after he came back from suspension, his agent Ben Dogra got up there and just disrespected all of Vikings Nation wearing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey and posting on social media, game on with Adrian Peterson's name or whatever it was, game on, and then talked to Kevin Seifert, I think at the owners meeting or whatever that is, or whatever that was during the offseason. Oh, Adrian Peterson, he doesn't need to go back to the Minnesota Vikings. Why should he? And blah, blah, blah. And he was just a pompous ass the way he went about it. So, and you know what? Ben Dogra, he wasn't just doing that on his own. He's an extension of his client. He was only doing what Adrian Peterson either told him or wanted him to do, or what Adrian Peterson agreed that Ben Dogra wanted to do, okay? So he's an extension of his client. But besides that, getting all that personal pride to the side, and part of me, I was furious because after that suspension, I was like, yo, we just saw Teddy Bridgewater in that first year he had. I'm like, yeah, this dude could do something. Now when you put him with Adrian Peterson, oh, this could be really, really good. But then instead of looking forward to that, it was just an offseason of just drama, of just like, really? Are you serious right now? You're making what? That stupid amount of money that he was making, and he was trying to forfeit that all? Man, he didn't go anywhere. You weren't going anywhere. You had no control over that. And that's the difference between the NFL and the NBA. NBA players be like, I want to get traded, and you have no control when they're a free agent, an unrestricted free agent, so you got to at least get something back for them. If a player was, I want to get traded, we can franchise tag you. Or you're under contract, and you can sit out and make nothing, but you have no control. That's the difference between the NFL and the NBA. But getting back to the point, as far as Adrian Peterson, no, just in terms of football, when he gets onto the field, you know exactly what's going to happen. A handoff or a play action. But even if you do play action, you're setting your quarterback up for grabs because he can't block worth a damn. And then, you're basically setting your team up, your offense up 10 on 11 with Adrian Peterson as your last resort on passing plays. And then on passing plays where he's a receiver coming out the backfield, he's not the most fluid of receivers. He's very one-dimensional. And that's not to say I'm hating on Adrian Peterson. I predicted that he would have a really good year with the Washington Redskins. I predicted that he would have 1,100 to 1,200 yards last year in 2018. He broke 1,000. I think it was 1,026 yards, something like that. So he had a really, really good year, but he's not a good fit for this Vikings team. So Kyler Murray, absolutely not. Tank for Trevor Lawrence if you have to for the 2021 draft. And then Stefon Diggs, I can't get behind the patience. You're in win-now mode. Your general manager and your head coach are on the hot seat, so you have no choice but to be impatient with this Vikings team. And then Adrian Peterson should absolutely not be on this Vikings team for next year. So anyway, we do this twice a week, Mediokr Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Thanks for tuning in. Tuesday's podcast on Score North. On Saturdays, you can find it on my YouTube channel. Just search Realistic Randy. We'll see you on Saturday.